Okay, John is stuffing. He is stuffing a piece of plastic down in the spark plug hole. This is spark plug number 1A on the A side. The A side of the engine is when you're standing in the back of a XJS Jag. The A side is on your right side. So he's just stuffed a piece of plastic down in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring it to top dead center. This piece of plastic should pop right out. So John's going to hold the camera and watch this piece of paper pop out. I'm going to go in there and turn the engine over. Okay, we're working on the distributor. We discovered that we had a little broken piece and we had to glue it back in. John is currently reinstalling the plug wires. They're all marked. They have markings on them. And I advise that if you're working on this, that you mark the wires. You will be confused. 12 cylinders. So we had to take out the distributor and put the distributor on top dead center, number 1A. We are starting back on the Jag. We got the Jag running, and the problem was with the distributor. But we discovered that after we drove it for a while, she shut off and she wouldn't run again. So I did a couple of tests, and I used some Noid lights, and I discovered that the fuel injectors are not firing. So I believe that the problem is the power resistors. I believe that they're dirty, and I believe that we need to clean them. The power resistors for this car, we use this to hold the hood up because I'm too cheap to buy some new hood things. But the power resistor is right down there, and we're going to get that out of there and clean it really well, and to see if the injectors are going to fire. Now on all these V12 Jaguar engines, these are the injectors. Oh, shoot, I dropped my glasses down there. These are the injectors. These are the injectors right here, and this is the connector for the injector. Okay, and what happens is this cable right here is from the injectors, and this thing gets brittle, and I untied it. It needs to be tie wrapped back up in here so that it won't get caught in the belts. But this is the injector cable. It goes to this power resistor in the corner here, one of these, and it comes all the way back, and it goes all the way to the back of the car where the fuel injection computer module is, or the fuel injection module. So the problem here, we think that this power resistor down here is the connector's dirty, and it's not getting the proper signal to tell the injectors to open and close. So we're getting fuel up on the rail. I checked that yesterday. So the next we're going to pull out the power resistors and take a look at it, and then we come back on the video again. These are the power resistors for the 1990 Jag. These resistors are used to control the voltage that hits the injectors. I said that this is a problem. This is not a problem. They're very clean. My brother and I, we examined them and they look very good. The cable is good. Continuity is good all the way back to the computer. So this is not the problem. The problem is probably the crank sensor or something wrong in the computer. This is a Noid light, and it's a little strobe light that is used to let me know if these injectors are firing. It's like a little strobe light that you plug right into the injector wire. And what I do is I take off one of the injector wires here. I take this injector wire off right here, and I plug the Noid light into that. Now what should happen when you plug this Noid light in here, let me stop the camera and restart again. 1 second here. Alright, once you install this Noid light into the injector wire, the idea is that you go and you try to start the car and you should get a flashing light every time the cylinder comes up to fire. And what we're not getting is this is not flashing. So this is what prompted us to go check the position sensor, the crank position sensor that's plugged in down here. If you're not getting the signal from the crank, the fuel injection computer in the back of the car will not know to tell these injectors to fire. So we know that the car is getting fuel. We know that the car is getting ignition. This is the ignition. We know that it's getting the ignition, but it's not getting the injector pulses. So our suspicion is that we need a crank position sensor. The problems with the Jag are that we checked resistance at the crank sensor, and this is the top dead center crank sensor on the 1990 Jag here. And what John did was he checked for resistance here. We're picking up 700 ohms. We're catching 700 ohms here, but the problem is when you turn the engine over, it should change a little bit. It's not changing. So like he's picking up 700 ohms. I don't think he has the meter on there. He has to set the meter. The meter's on, and he's picking up 700 ohms on the meter, if you see the meter there. But the problem is when you crank the engine, this should change as the inductor's pickup passes by the notch in the crank. It's not changing. We're not testing it with an O-scope, which we should have an O-scope on it, but we don't have an O-scope to check it on. But we're checking to see if the resistance changes when the engine turns.
The pulley is turning slow enough so we can see some change.
Yes, the pulley is turning slow enough so we should be able to see a change there. We checked in milliamps, we checked AC milliamps and DC milliamps, and that made no difference. So we think that we need a crank position sensor on this car. And it's kind of a nasty job, but we have to get this crank sensor out. This is coming from the crank sensor that's down on the crankshaft, and this one goes back to the computer. I'm probably going to renew this plug soon because it's kind of worse for wear right here. We checked it back at the computer, but it seems like it's getting the connection back there. So now if you come around the front of the car and you go underneath here, I'll show you where that crank sensor is. It's kind of yucky under here. But that crank sensor is right up in there on the crankshaft. Let me see if I can see it from here. Yeah, it's right there. That crank sensor. It's right there. That's the crank sensor. Top position, top dead center. And we think that that's why the car won't stop.